The lands and seas of the world of Warhammer are vast, mighty, and dangerous. The planet is home to a large variety of amazing and frightening species, including many different creatures and beasts that lurk in caves, tunnel networks, and underwater passages. Creatures that roam the open fields or fly high above all others. What follows is a collection of the works of the Doctor of Biology and Zoology of the University of Nuln, Steffan Hoffman. This time we will travel to the heart of Nehekhara, the land of the dead, a place shrouded in darkness and mystery. A place chosen by the community with a poll that counted around 8,000 votes. Even though on the surface it may not appear so, Nehekhara is a place full of monsters, creatures that are always lurking over and under the hot sands of the desert, or constructs that are waiting in their eternal slumber for the perfect time to strike. Seeking to quench my thirst for knowledge, I left the pristine shores of Ulthuan behind. I set off on a perilous journey with nothing more than an aged map and a determination that would not waver. The journey took me through perilous storms and times of peaceful waters, but it ultimately led me to the land of the dead. There I disembarked and started advancing into Nehekhara. My worn face was being struck by the burning rays of the sun, and the dry air was scratching my already dry throat. Yet there was an eerie calmness about this desolate wasteland, as if the dunes themselves contained secrets that only a fool or a lunatic would dare to unearth. After hearing tales of the beasts and abominations that were said to inhabit this terrifying region, I knew that the path I was about to embark upon would not be an easy one. Yet there was no going back. I continued to go forward, the undersides of my boots sinking deeper and deeper into the golden sand, leaving behind a trail of footprints that appeared to be predestined to be erased by the unrelenting wind that never ceased. I had learned through many books and tales that entire cities are suddenly uncovered when the winds and the sands move accordingly to reveal vast metropolises that were constructed many centuries ago. And as fast as these cities are uncovered, they are suddenly swallowed once again by the vast desert, never to be seen again, covered in tremendously vast mountains of sand in a matter of just a couple of days. There are other landmarks, temples and ancient tombs, which seem to be always above the surface, showing their majestic splendor to the ghosts that roam these empty lands. As I walk further into the center of this region, I started to come across remnants of the long-vanished civilization of Nehekhara. The path I walked along was lined with crumbling stone statues that bore the faces of gods that had been forgotten for a long time. The smothering grip of the desert appeared to suffocate the very life out of everything it touched, leaving behind just degradation and the ever-present stillness as its legacy. Suddenly, a vast and ancient necropolis loomed before me, an eerie monument to a civilization long buried beneath the sands. As I walked through the desolate streets, the once great buildings now reduced to crumbling ruins, I felt as though I were a trespasser in a realm that was never meant for the living. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the sounds I made, some of them echoing off the time-worn stones and walls. As I went with my research of the city, I came across a magnificent library, The enormous doors were open in such a way that they seemed to be calling me inside. The smell of rust and the faintest trace of old paper permeated the air inside, and it was heavy with both of those scents. I made my way in. With trembling hands, I reached out and carefully selected a scroll from one of the shelves. As I unfurled the brittle parchment, my heart raced with anticipation. The ancient text before me was written in a long-lost script, but I had spent years studying the languages and histories of this world's many realms, and I was well equipped to decipher its secrets. As I did so, I couldn't help but feel as though I was being watched, and I'm sure that, in a way, I was indeed being watched. But this is what I do, and I know the dangers I would face, even before coming here. This is the land of the dead, but I am Steffan Hoffman, Doctor of Biology and Zoology of the University of Nuln, and I will uncover the secrets that this place hides. I spent the hours going over the scrolls and slowly piecing together the story of Nehekhara as I did so. It is a story of people with an insatiable desire for power. In bygone epochs, the kingdom of Nehekhara was a formidable civilization that was controlled by extraordinary kings. Their cities were magnificent, and their armies were formidable, but their desire to live forever would prove to be their doom in the end. It is said that the gods of old transformed the lands into a prosperous realm, and ruled there for thousands of years until the birth of the race of man. In exchange for their worship, the deities offered to protect and watch over those who lived in the great land. The gods taught them how to read, how to grow food, and how to make a better life for themselves. Thus was this great civilization born, and through centuries of work and culture, it grew powerful. The ancient kingdom of Nehekhara was at its peak, when other men were still primitive and savage. There was a time when Nehekhara was considered to be the pinnacle of human civilization. It was during this golden age that its cities shined with breathtaking magnificence, its armies conquered entire nations, and kings ruled as gods amongst humans. With the passing of time and many centuries of prosperity, the kings of those incredibly prosperous lands refused to let something as mere as death deny them of their lifetime's accomplishments or rob them of their rich possessions. It is believed that upon death, each king would be mummified in an elaborate ritual to preserve them until the day of awakening, when they would arise into a golden paradise filled with all their subjects and any belongings that were entombed with them, and in this place they would rule for all eternity. In this way, huge tombs were built for the kings, their servants and their possessions. Even entire armies were buried alive, with all their weaponry and equipment needed to protect their kings in the next life.
Hail to the mighty tomb guard who stand before me. You who stand before me, you who will stand watch over me for all eternity. For I, Cetra, Lord and First Priest King of Khemri, will awaken to command you in the paradise that awaits us. Hail to the Ushabti and Sphinx who stand sentinel beside the monuments of the king. Hail to the commanders of my army, leading forth your regiments to join me in eternity. Hail to the warriors of my legions. Make ready your weapons to fill the air with the sound of your worship. Your standards are pleasing to my sight and that of the gods. See how the light of Fetra shines upon them. Remember them gleaming this day as you enter the darkness of the tomb. Fear not what we must do, for we are the glory of Khemri, and we shall rise again to fulfill our manifest destiny of ruling this world. There are great deeds that remain undone, enemies yet to conquer and raptures yet to rejoice in. So, as it is written, so shall it be done. I, Cetra, have proclaimed it. Let none dare oppose my will.
With centuries, Nehekhara became a society obsessed with death and immortality. Skulls and skeletons became common symbols of everlasting life, and they were carved on the shields, banners, and chariots of the priest-king's armies. As the Nehekharan obsession with death flourished, the architecture and landscape of the Great Land irrevocably changed as well. No expense was spared in paving the path for immortality, and the splendor, wealth, and power of Nehekhara was breathtaking to behold. Over time, their necropolises became bigger and shadowed over the towns of the living. Through dark sorcery and forbidden rituals, the kings and their priests sought to defy death itself. But their efforts to bind their souls to this world only served to awaken an ancient and malevolent force. The great necromancer, Nagash, swept through Nehekhara like a scourge, his dark magic corrupting the land forever. The once mighty civilization was reduced to a desolate wasteland, and its citizens were cursed to spend eternity wandering as restless ghosts. The kings who had sought immortality became undead beings known as Tomb Kings, and they were destined to rule eternally over a kingdom that was full of dust and decay. Condemned to a life that was only a fraction of their former existence, the Tomb Kings now fight to restore their vast kingdom to its former glory, striking forth to reclaim the lands from the living. As I sat there, surrounded by the remnants of a civilization consumed by its own hubris, I couldn't help but feel a chill run down my spine. The story of Nehekhara is a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the perils of ambition and of the dark forces that lurk in the shadows of our world. The long hours spent over the ancient scrolls had left me both physically and mentally exhausted. I could feel the weight of my eyelids growing heavier by the moment as the night fell over the lands. It was time to rest. I was able to locate a secluded spot in the wide length of the library, and the shadows provided by the towering walls and high rooftops gave me a strange sense of privacy and safety. I must say that only a fool would feel truly safe in Nehekhara, but at least I knew I could spend the night here, partially hidden from any roaming mercenary warbands or wild creatures. The air was still thick with the scent of decaying parchment, but I had grown accustomed to it. From my pack, I retrieved a small bundle of provisions, a simple meal of dried meats, crusty bread, and a few pieces of fruit. It wasn't much, but it was enough to sustain me for another day in this unforgiving land. As I ate and tasted the food, I couldn't help but think of the countless souls who had once feasted on the bounties of Nehekhara. Their laughter and merriment echoing through the halls of these now ruined palaces. My thoughts turned to the stories I had uncovered in the ancient scrolls, the tales of ambition and the terrible price paid for the pursuit of immortality. For a mortal man to pretend to be like gods, To reach for immortality? The audacity. I quickly found myself wondering if there was still hope for Nehekhara, if the land of the dead could ever truly find peace. Battles in the land of the dead tend to be fought along the caravan routes and in the vicinity of ancient necropolises, not only because these attract adventurers and tomb robbers, but also because of the Tomb Kings, who awaken from time to time to fight among themselves. Massive battles involving thousands upon thousands of reanimated skeletons and massive constructs are fought silently in the desert sands. There are no battle cries or barked orders. The innumerable skeletons and constructs move by the power of will and magic alone, obeying their masters as they did in life. Only the deafening sounds of broken bones, metal, and cracking stones are heard when these titanic battles are fought. After these battles are finished, miles upon miles of shattered bones and other remnants are then swallowed once again by the unforgiving sands of Nehekhara. Dark Elf expeditions have occasionally managed to advance deep into the land of the dead. When that happens, increasingly bigger armies are raised from the infinite pool of bones that is the desert, and the intruders are dealt with swift vengeance. In reality, to try to steal the treasures and relics of the Tomb Kings is to ask for damnation. The Ushapti are massive guardian sculptures that are carved out of stone and have their heads of terrifying animals, such as lions, crocodiles, or jackals. These statues are meant to reflect the various facets of the gods of ancient Nehekhara that they are said to represent. On the battlefield, the Ushapti are lethal opponents. Their stone limbs are far stronger than mortal soldiers, allowing them to easily slice through the ranks of the enemy. In addition to giving them an unnatural resilience, the magical energy that holds them together also renders them practically resistant to all but the most destructive of strikes. Against formidable enemies such as the elves, bigger constructs can be awakened too. One of these massive beings is the dreaded Arrow Titan. This is a gigantic construct of the Tomb Kings, and serves as evidence to the impressive might and splendor of Nehekhara's distant past. The terrifying presence of the Arrow Titan, which looms over the battleground like a furious god, strikes terror into the hearts of its adversaries. It is a colossal statue that embodies the essence of Nehekharan god-kings. It bears the regal countenance of a pharaoh, its noble visage adorned with intricate carvings and inscriptions that tell the story of its eternal rule. The Arrow Titan wields immense magical power, drawing upon the very energies of the land of the dead itself. Its eyes burn with an otherworldly light, capable of searing the souls of its enemies and reducing their flesh to ash in an instant. The Arrow Titan wields in one hand an ornate staff called the Icon of Petra. The staff is emblazoned with a hieroglyph of the sun deity and serves to illuminate the Arrow Titan's way as it travels through the abyss that lies between the mortal world and the realm of souls. This light wards away the evil spirits that reside in the darkness. Demons that would otherwise feed on the souls of individuals who are wandering the void if they were not prevented from doing so by this light. The other hand of the Hero Titan is used to hold a massive pair of scales that are known as the Scales of Usurian. Encounters with orcs, goblins, and barbaric tribes are common, and they are dealt with the full uncontained fury of the undead host. The sacking of their treasures is an offense that can't be forgiven, and the Tomb Kings ensure every last trinket stolen is returned to their domain. To achieve this, the undead use a variety of constructs to support their main troops. Another of these famous constructs is the Tomb Scorpion, terrifying creations of the mortuary cult, blending the ruthless temperament of a carnivorous beast and the emotionless resolve of the undead. Constructed using a variety of materials, including stone, metal, lacquered wood, and fused bone, the Tomb Scorpions are brought to life through powerful necromantic magic. Their design mimics the natural form of a scorpion, but turned to a massive scale, with a segmented body, multiple legs, and a venomous stinger that drips with a deadly concoction capable of paralyzing or even killing those who are unfortunate enough to be struck by it. They ambush their opponents abruptly, and without prior warning, by burrowing beneath the surface of the desert and erupting into the fray in a spray of sand. The Tomb Scorpions are known for their incredible speed and agility, allowing them to move swiftly across the battlefield and strike with deadly precision. To protect their borders, the Tomb Kings deploy the deadly Sepulchre Stalkers. These are statues that have the body of a snake and the upper torso of a man. They are reanimated sentinels, created by the ancient Nehekharans to delineate the borders of a king's realm. They wait for the invaders to pass by, while they lie in wait beneath the surface of the desert. Once they do, they launch a devastating ambush. When the trap is sprung, several horrifying snake-like forms burst from the ground to surround their prey. Exemplifying the stealth and ability of Nehekhara's long-gone hunters, these unsettling beings are intended to perform the dual role of assassin and scout, striking from the sands to eliminate vital targets before vanishing again beneath the desert or melting into the shadows. Generally, these constructs are more than enough to deal with any intruders that venture too deep into the lands of the dead. It is only when entire armies or mighty enemies stand their ground against them that the Tomb Kings raise more forces and constructs to deal with the intruders. Nehekhara has also been invaded more than once by lizard men from the Southlands, who are constantly searching for lost plaques looted from their temple cities in the past. Both races value their treasures highly, and they protect them at all costs. To achieve an effective protection of their realm, the undead priests of Nehekhara awaken the mighty Kemrian war sphinxes to deal with the most powerful enemies. Their outer layers are so tough that they are almost immune to injury, and their armor can withstand all but the most direct blows. In combat, the Kemrian war sphinxes act as unstoppable juggernauts, trampling opposing ranks with ease and smashing through fortifications with no difficulty. Their formidable claws can easily rip through armor, and their gigantic tails may dispatch whole enemy squads with a single strike of lethal strength. They provide a high platform from which the Tomb Kings might command their armies of the undead, and are frequently ridden into battle by elite Tomb Guard, or even by the Tomb Kings themselves. These mighty constructs stand as eternal guardians of the Tomb King's domain, symbols of their unyielding determination to reclaim their lost glory and undisputed rule over the land of the dead. The more I learn, the more I realize that thousands of battles have been fought in the barren sea of sand that is Nehekhara, and it shall be so until the end of times. As I prepared for my departure, gathering my belongings and saying my silent farewells to the land of the dead, the sun began to rise over the horizon, casting its golden light upon the ruins and tombs that had become my shelter for what had felt like an eternity. As I moved through the desert, the wind whispered its secrets. Some seemed like temptations, some others sounded almost like silent cries of pain. The sands shifting beneath me, the colossal statues of the Cimmerian war sphinxes, the eerie sepulchral stalkers, and the monstrous tomb scorpions seemed to be but distant memories now, their silent vigil continuing as I moved further away from their domain. Time and space seemed to twist in weird ways in these lands, but I kept walking. After this trip, I felt a rekindled flame inside of me. A flame that would guide me through the trials and tribulations that still wait for me beyond the sands of Nehekhara. What fortune awaits me beyond the borders of Nehekhara? What horrors?
On this channel, we are putting together narrative Total War cinematic battles and Warhammer lore videos. A special thank you goes to our Patreon supporters who help us in the making of more content. You can also join Patreon and earn extra perks while supporting the videos to come. Find the link in the description below. Make sure to subscribe, and thank you for watching. See you on the next one.